Over the past few weeks, we have been talking about how AI is gradually going from being just a technology to becoming power, a force shaping elections, a force governments are scrambling to control, and now a force people are starting to push back against. Because this week, AI didn't just evolve. It collided with reality. Welcome to the Business and AI podcast, where we break down what's happening in AI, and more importantly, what it means for you, your work, and your future. This week, we're not chasing shiny new features. We're looking at something deeper. The moment AI begins to reshape power, trust, and everyday life. And if you're paying attention, this is where things start to get very real. Let's start with something that might quietly become one of the biggest stories of the year. The US government is now pushing toward its first major federal AI law. On the surface, it's about safety, kids, misinformation, energy use. But underneath that, something bigger is happening. AI is being treated less like software and more like infrastructure that needs rules. And when that shift happens, the game changes. Because suddenly, it's not just about who can build the best model. It's about who can operate within the system that's being defined. If you're a company, that means compliance becomes part of your product. If you're learning AI, it means understanding policy is no longer optional. The people who see regulation early don't get slowed down by it. They position around it. And while governments are trying to define reality, AI is already starting to distort it. This next one feels like something out of a movie, except it's happening right now. AI-generated deepfakes are already showing up in US election campaigns, not as experiments, but as influence tools. Videos that look real, speeches that never happened, content designed to move opinions before anyone has time to question it. And what's unsettling here isn't just the technology. It's how quickly it erodes something we depend on every day. Shared reality. Because once people start questioning everything they see, you don't just lose trust in media, you lose trust in each other. At the same time, this creates a strange kind of opportunity. In a world flooded with synthetic content, the ability to verify, explain, and provide clarity becomes incredibly valuable. Not louder voices, clearer ones. And as that trust starts to crack, people aren't just observing anymore. They're reacting. This week, people gathered outside the offices of OpenAI, Anthropic, and xAI, not to celebrate innovation, but to question it. They were asking for something simple but powerful. Slow down. Be responsible. Think about the consequences. And if that feels familiar, it should. We've seen this pattern before with social media, with big tech, but what's different here is the timing. AI is still early, and yet the pushback is already here. That tells you how fast this is moving. It also tells you where things are headed. Because the companies that succeed from here won't just be the ones building faster, they'll be the ones people are willing to trust. And that trust isn't built after the fact. It's designed into the system from the beginning. At the same time, while the public is raising concerns, governments are thinking at a completely different scale. Across policy conversations in Washington this week, one idea kept coming up again and again. AI is no longer just technology, it's strategy. Countries are now treating AI the way they treat energy, defense, or the internet itself, as something that defines national strength. They're competing not just on innovation, but on who controls the future of intelligence systems. For businesses, this means your tools, platforms, and even data are increasingly tied to geopolitics. For society, it means AI decisions will affect national security, economic inequality, and global power balance. So whether you realize it or not, you're operating inside an ecosystem that's becoming more structured, more competitive, and less neutral. And nowhere is that shift more visible than in how China is approaching AI. China isn't just investing in AI, it's organizing around it. This week, new signals showed a clear focus on humanoid robotics, brain-computer interfaces, autonomous systems, not as isolated projects, but as part of a coordinated push. And the key difference here is speed of deployment. While others are refining models, China is asking, how quickly can this be integrated into everyday systems? That approach changes the competitive dynamic. For businesses, this changes the competitive landscape. Speed of execution may matter more than innovation itself. For society, it raises big questions about surveillance, control, and how AI shapes daily life and for you. This is your reminder that AI isn't just one ecosystem. There are multiple AI worlds emerging, and understanding those differences is a strategic advantage. But even the fastest systems depend on something much more fragile than software. One of the quieter signals this week might end up being one of the most important. Concerns around semiconductors, materials, even something as unexpected as helium are starting to affect AI progress. It's a reminder that AI doesn't exist in the cloud. It exists in data centers, supply chains, and physical systems. And when those systems strain, everything slows down, which means the next phase of AI isn't just about smarter models. It's about making them more efficient, more accessible, more resilient. That's where a lot of the opportunity is shifting, and some companies are already leaning into that reality. NVIDIA is starting to describe AI systems in a way we haven't heard before, as factories, not metaphorically, but literally, systems that produce intelligence, tied directly to energy availability. When power is abundant, computation scales up. When it's constrained, it adapts. That idea connects AI to something much bigger: energy systems, infrastructure, climate, and sustainability. And once those worlds start to overlap, you begin to see entirely new industries forming at that intersection. At the same time, the software layer is evolving just as quickly. For a long time, interacting with AI meant asking questions. And as we have talked about since the past 2 weeks, it's starting to mean assigning tasks. This week, we saw more systems that can plan, break down goals, and execute steps, almost like a junior teammate. They're not perfect yet, but they're good enough to change how work flows. We are moving from assistants to AI co-workers. For businesses, this means productivity gains, but also a redesign of roles. For society, it raises questions about job structures, skills, and human relevance. And for you, this is your moment to shift. Don't just learn how to use AI, learn how to manage AI systems, because the highest value skill is no longer doing the work. It's more about decision-making and directing the work. And while AI gets more capable, there's still something it struggles with. A new benchmark this week gave us a reality check. On certain types of general reasoning tasks, AI systems are still performing at less than 1% compared to humans. That's not a small gap. That's a reminder. AI is powerful, but it's not general intelligence. It still needs structure, context, guidance. And that's where human judgment remains essential, which means the future isn't about replacement. It's about combination, and that combination is starting to move beyond screens. We're beginning to see AI show up not just in apps, but in physical form. Last week, on March 25th, 2026, the figure 03, an AI-powered humanoid robot, walked with the First Lady at the White House to showcase the future of AI in education, marking the first time a humanoid robot has escorted a First Lady at an official event. The robot, created by Figure AI, walked with her into a Fostering the Future Together summit to highlight advancements in robotics. The humanoid robots demonstrated real-time interaction, language switching, and public engagement, and this is just the beginning. For businesses, this opens doors in retail, healthcare, and logistics. For society, it changes how we interact with machines. And for you, this is a reminder. AI won't just change what you do. It will change what you see, touch, and interact with daily. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, something quieter is happening. AI is no longer being tested. It's being used. Companies are reporting real productivity gains, real integration into workflows, real impact. And when that happens, adoption accelerates. Because once something proves useful, it stops being optional. It becomes expected, which means the gap between those who are using AI effectively and those who aren't is starting to widen. And underneath all of this, there's one thread connecting everything we've talked about. If you step back and look at this week as a whole, one theme keeps showing up: trust. Deepfakes challenge it. Regulation tries to protect it. Protests demand it. And without it, none of this works. Because it doesn't matter how powerful AI becomes if people don't believe in it. So the real question isn't just what AI can do next. It's whether people are willing to accept it. And increasingly, that answer depends on how well we understand it. This week wasn't about one breakthrough, it was about convergence, technology, policy, society, infrastructure, all intersecting at once. And when that happens, things stop feeling theoretical. They start shaping real life. And the people who stay ahead won't just be the most technical, they'll be the most aware. If you found this valuable, make sure you subscribe, because every week we break down what AI means for real life, not just headlines. And I'll see you in the next one.